to be proud of all of their backgrounds, as it were, and we tried to construct a curriculum. It's the same if you happen to be Afro-Caribbean, right? It didn't really matter what. And so that's sort of three parts of your identity. And I felt, hey, this man is a philosopher king, and he seems to be telling me that I've actually, in a sense, got that right. So that was, if I'm right, that was lovely. But then I'm a simple soul, as you may realise, and I like to think I'm very grounded in terms of classroom pedagogy with students. And I always think, well, okay, that's jolly well in theory, but you know, if I'm teaching a difficult class at the end of a Friday afternoon, how does that actually transmit? You were about to talk about pedagogy and how you've done it. And I thought, yes, you know, hallelujah or whatever, and then the bell went. So I wonder if you could give us a couple of quick examples of how you actually do it.
Well, so my examples are not classroom examples, exactly, because I'm a university dean, yeah. So at the university. So a good way of thinking about this is as follows: that the problem I think most societies are small liberal, most democratic societies are small liberal republics. That is to say, most democratic societies, and the UK is no exception, are societies where they have a large, let's call it ethnic or cultural or national majority, and then minorities of different kinds. In our case, the minority is a landed minority. It's primarily Muslim, it's primarily Arab, though there are a significant number of Christians and Druze who also identify as Arabs, but they have different religions. Okay, so in our case, the public space is primarily dominated by the Jewish majority. We speak in Hebrew. The big accomplishment of the Zionist movement is to create a public space for Jewish national expression of that kind. The difficulty that it poses, of course, is for the landed minority, but they don't feel that they have a place, right? If in the American case, which is where you can hear from my accent that I originally come from, if the American case, you have a very, very large public square that makes it actually hard for the minorities to get a voice, like Jewish minorities and Catholic minorities and others to get a voice. You have a large public square, and it's hard for people to get in. In most cases, and I think this is true in Israel, and I think this is true in many of the examples that we heard in the course of the day, the reverse is the case. You have a large public square that's dominated by a particular cultural entity, and then the others have a hard time getting a voice. So the problem is to get the dominant culture to step back, to limit its role in the public space, so to invite the minorities in. And the second problem is to create enough trust from the perspective of the various minorities that they think that coming in is not somehow betraying some other cause that they may feel that they have. And that's the problem I have as a dean of students at the University of Haifa. So I'll give two examples. One is that our Senate last year voted to acknowledge 3 holidays that are not Jewish holidays. So whereas no other Israeli university does this, we recognize Christmas, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha are all holidays in which we don't teach. That is to say, before that, non-Jewish students had rights to their holidays according to our, and so on, they couldn't be examined and all sorts of other things. But this is something else. This is not just recognizing rights. This is recognizing culture in the public square. It's to say, we're not going to hold classes on those days. No one's going to come to school on those days because we recognize that we want to celebrate with you your holidays in the same way that we ask you to celebrate with us in our holidays. That requires the Jewish majority to step back, and it invites the non-Jewish majority to step in. So that's one example. And a second example, I've put a great deal of pressure on our student union, which is the student unions at Israeli universities have a lot of significant roles, and they have a kind of power that they don't have in American universities, for example. I don't know about the UK. So I put a lot of pressure on our student union to create a significant space for the non-Jewish majority, because they primarily represent the Jewish majority. And so far they've stepped up to the plate by creating a variety of different positions structurally within their organization to invite Arab students in. There's now a bureau that handles student affairs that creates a whole lot of variety of opportunities. Translation, of course, curricula into Arabic, creating a whole variety of materials for Arabic-speaking students who come to the university. That's a Hebrew-speaking university where Arabic is their first language. So they're at a kind of disadvantage. Previously, there were small Arab groups that would sort of serve that agenda as a kind of counterculture. And I'm arguing we should be doing that. We should be doing that anyway. So the student union has taken that up. There's lots of stuff that we don't do, and I would like the student union to do a lot more. They're under a lot of pressure from me to do a lot more. But those are two examples of the theory, how we can get the majority to step back in order to invite the minority in, so that the objective is to create a public space that, I mean, the philosophical term is a modus vivendi. Is it a public space that we can share, given the fact that we recognize that we are different. And that's the challenge. So those are two examples. I can give you a lot more afterwards.
More power for you then.
Okay, the last question, if you have any other questions. Yes, please.
I'll be quick. So we have been talking about citizenship as solidarity, as compassion, as responsibilities, and belonging and rights. But one of the things that I am inspired and encouraged to hear Eileen, who said something about Catholic teaching as a preferential option for the poor. And so to that extent, citizenship is also a privilege. I don't know in European context, but in Canadian, North American context, carrying a Canadian passport is a privilege. In other words, there are so many folks who are sharing our land who can't access to those rights and responsibilities and belongings because of their undocumented workers, landed immigrants, and other reasons they cannot obtain or acquire those legal system of citizenship. So I do wonder in what ways our citizenship education for creating a just communities also consider and pay attention to those whose categories are not included in the citizenship.
Thank you. So, it was a comment or it was a question?
Oh.
Thank you very much. Announcement now, buses to take us to our dinner location will be moving in 5 minutes, I think. So please move towards buses.
We should continue discussion.
Thank you.